After the mission was completed, I refused to leave this world. I married Pei Huai. In the 5th year of our marriage, I was diagnosed as pregnant. He wept with joy. He had always been cold and restrained, yet he lost control twice, both times because of me. Everyone in the capital knew it. He loved me as if his life depended on it. But I knew the truth. He kept a concubine outside. Their child was already 3 years old. This time the system asked me, "The mission has been successfully completed. Do you wish to exit this world?" I smiled, finally at peace. Yes.
Hi, welcome to Morning Love Stories. Thank you for being here with me. Let's get into today's story.
Congratulations, Lord Pei. Madam Pei is with child.
The moment the imperial physician spoke those words, Pei Huai's eyes reddened at once. He gripped my hand tightly, so overwhelmed with joy that he couldn't speak. He looked nothing like the ruthless Lord Yama Pei, who dominated the court.
Now, we finally have a child of our own.
Yes, we had been married for 5 years. Our longing for a child had grown stronger with each passing year. Yet the more we hoped, the longer we waited. He was the only son of the Marquis's household. An heir was of utmost importance. Yet because of my words, one life, one love, he resolutely refused to take concubines. He said he loved only me. Even if we never had children, he was willing to spend his life by my side alone. With devotion like that, how could I not be moved? I have always been delicate and spoiled. Yet over these 5 years, I drank countless bitter medicines, endured countless needles, and tried every folk remedy imaginable. It hurt that it was bitter, but I believed it was all worth it. And now at last we had a child. Looking back, my heart ached. Tears slipped down uncontrollably. He wiped my tears gently, treating me as though I were his most precious treasure, so fragile that a single touch might shatter me. I stared into his eyes, overflowing with affection, my body trembling as I cried. I knew it. His tenderness was not an act. He truly loved me, and yet he could still hide another woman outside our home, set her up in secret, and even have a child with her. 3 years old. He had deceived me for 3 whole years. Everyone in the capital knew it. Vice Minister Pei loved his wife like his life itself, feared her like a tiger. He swore never to take concubines, and no matter who tried to persuade him, it was useless. That year, seeing that Pei Huai still had no heir, the emperor bestowed several beauties upon him. When I heard the news, I was furious and aggrieved, but imperial gifts could not be refused, so I instructed the servants to prepare rooms. Yet by noon he returned alone, with 15 lashes on his back. He had rejected the gift outright. The emperor, angered, had ordered him punished. I wept in distress, my heart breaking for him, but he smiled at me as if asking for praise.
Now, I only need you.
His smile was so beautiful, his eyes seeming to hold an entire sky of stars. In that moment, all I could hear was the frantic pounding of my own heart. After his promotion to vice minister, his duties were overwhelming. Yet every time he returned home, he brought me my favorite pear blossom cakes. He rose early to draw my brows himself, afraid I might grow bored within the residence. He disregarded his status and personally built a swing for me. Afraid I might catch a chill from playing too long, he repeatedly reminded the servants to add extra layers for me. Every detail, every small act told me again and again. He loved me deeply. How could it possibly be false? I murmured softly,
"System, do you think he really loves me?"
The system did not respond. Ever since I refused to leave this world, it had fallen into dormancy. But even if it were awake, I thought, it probably wouldn't be able to analyze the complexity of human emotions. Perhaps from worrying too much, my morning sickness became severe. In just half a month I lost 10 pounds. Even Pei Huai, usually so gentle-tempered, couldn't help losing his temper with the servants and the physicians. Later, I don't know where he heard that an old nanny by the Empress Dowager's side had a remedy for pregnancy sickness. Disregarding his pride, he went to beg the Empress Dowager himself. She laughed and scolded him for being henpecked, but still lent him the nanny. His face flushed, yet he nodded and openly accepted the label, shamelessly taking the nanny away. The concubines present couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. In less than half an hour, the story spread everywhere. Even when my mother came to visit, she smiled and told me how blessed I was to have such an outstanding husband who doted on me so completely.
Now, Huchi Pavilion has just introduced a new lotus hawthorn pastry. It's light and refreshing. You'll definitely like it.
He carefully arranged the pastries in front of me, smiling warmly, but I only took one bite before setting it down. Then I said,
Pei Lang, the apricot blossoms are in bloom. Will you accompany me to Shangshan tomorrow to see them?
For a split second, his smile stiffened. Then he laughed as if nothing had happened.
It's going to rain tomorrow. The mountain paths will be slippery. You've just become pregnant. It's better not to travel around. Now, if you want to see apricot blossoms, how about we go to Apricot Pavilion instead? You can even have a cup of your favorite apricot blossom wine.
I stared at him, trying to find even the slightest crack of guilt on his face, but I couldn't. He truly seemed concerned for my health.
Don't be upset, Niao. Once the weather clears, I'll go with you to Shangshan every day, all right?
He pulled me into his arms. Warm breath brushed my ear, carrying the familiar scent of sandalwood, but I caught it, a faint trace of apricot blossom fragrance. Pei Huai had gone to Shangshan today. That was where his kept woman lived. He had raised her tenderly in a residence on Xiangshan. When spring arrived and apricot blossoms bloomed on the branches, the entire courtyard was wrapped in their fragrance, breathtakingly beautiful. Unlike me, a transmigrated woman with no will to fight, willingly trapped beneath this square patch of sky, unable to move. Half a month later, the princess invited me to attend the apricot blossom banquet she was hosting. She had always treated me kindly, so I agreed. As I was about to board the carriage, Pei Huai still held my hand with worry etched between his brows.
Niao, the case hasn't been resolved yet. I can't accompany you today. You must be extremely careful.
He went on, instructing my maid. Mind the cold and heat, serve tea and water properly. Even the smallest details had to be confirmed before he felt at ease. My maid Sueji said enviously,
My lord truly dotes on madam. In the entire capital there's no second man like him. Young, accomplished, and so considerate.
Before she could finish, Jir tugged at her sleeve. Seeing my expression darken, Sueji stopped abruptly, not daring to say another word. I leaned against the carriage, closing my eyes slightly. A good husband. Those 3 words. Once they filled me with pride. Now, hearing them again, they felt nothing but bitter irony. The truth was, I had lied to Pei Huai. This trip to Shangshan was not for the apricot blossom banquet. I wanted to see that woman. I stood beneath an apricot tree and looked toward the plaque not far away. Genyu Pavilion, cherished like jade. So Pei Huai truly did care for her. My heart clenched violently, as if pierced by thousands of needles and blades, bloody, torn apart. And at that moment, a familiar figure suddenly knocked on the door. It was Pei Huai. I had known him for decades. No one in this world knew him better than I did. Then a woman opened the door. When she lifted her head, a stunningly beautiful face was revealed. Bright, dazzling, impossible to ignore. She smiled softly and hooked her arm through Pei Huai's. Following her pull, Pei Huai stepped inside. From afar, I seemed to hear him murmur softly,
Niao.
His voice was low and husky, thick with desire. He was stirred by her. When I returned home, Pei Huai still hadn't come back. I looked toward the swing outside the window and only then realized that all the flowers on the vines had withered. The splendor was gone. All that remained was ruin, just like my heart. At that moment, Pei Huai walked in.
Niao, were you happy today? I brought you some apricot blossom wine. Try a sip tonight.
He took my hand and led me to the stone table. I obediently sat down, but my gaze lingered on his neck. On his pale skin were 2 red marks, like a display, like a provocation. I raised my hand and lightly touched them. My fingertips were icy cold. He shivered, goosebumps rising, and smiled as he reached for my hand. But I suddenly spoke.
Pei Huai, what's on your neck?
He froze. A trace of panic flickered in his eyes.
Probably a mosquito bite.
I cut him off.
It's spring.
He continued quickly.
Then maybe it's an allergy. I accidentally ate some fish today. I didn't think much of it, so I didn't tell you.
As he spoke, he dropped to one knee in front of me and gripped my hand tightly, as if trying to prove how trustworthy he was. But I would never believe him again. I looked into his beautifully curved eyes and smiled faintly.
Pei Huai, you said you wanted one life, one love with me. You said you would never lie to me. Do those words still count now?
He stared at my face as if sensing something wrong. His hands trembled as he pulled me into his arms, very tightly. Over and over, he whispered into my ear.
Now, I love you. I only love you.
You see, Pei Huai never lies, so he only says that he loves me, but he dares not answer a single one of my questions. He lied to me. I know it. In fact, I've begun to doubt whether his love over all these years was ever real at all. I want to understand. When Pei Huai rose in the morning, he gently kissed my cheek and instructed the maids not to disturb me before leaving. I listened to his footsteps fade, then slowly got up and walked toward his study. He had never guarded himself against me, so I quickly found a wooden box, Perwood, engraved with my courtesy name. Now, I had made it myself as a coming-of-age gift for Pei Huai. Back then, he had seen the cuts on my hands and reddened with heartbreak. In front of me, he was never the dignified, aloof Marquis Pei, but a clingy crybaby who loved to act spoiled.
Now, I'll treasure this box forever. I'll put my most beloved, most precious things inside.
After our marriage, I once opened it by accident and found it filled with portraits of me. He said shamelessly that I was his most precious treasure. I blushed in embarrassment, but my heart was brimming with joy. But now, I saw another portrait, a woman in a flowing red dress, breathtakingly beautiful. Beside her sat a small child, looking exactly like Pei Huai did in his youth. In the lower left corner were 4 characters, most precious treasure. My heart clenched violently. My hand tightened instinctively. Rip. I tore one corner of the painting, and at that moment, a familiar voice sounded behind me.
Now, what are you doing here?
Perhaps I should have thrown the painting at him and demanded to know who she was. But I didn't. Silently, I placed the portrait back inside, closed the box, then turned and walked toward him. I smiled lightly just like before.
It's nothing. I was just looking around.
Looking at how the man I'd cherished for decades treasured another woman. Love is love, and not loving is not loving. If Pei Huai had told me he had fallen in love with her, I would have been hurt, I would have been heartbroken, but I would never have clung to him unwillingly. But he shouldn't have lied to me. Late that night, Pei Huai slept deeply. Even in his sleep, his hand subconsciously patted my back, gently soothing me. I opened my eyes. I raised my hand and slowly traced the outline of his features in the air. So handsome. Clearly the same person as the young Pei Lang from the past. But he had changed. I know that. My voice was very soft, filled with desolation.
Pei Huai, you were the one who said you would never betray me. You lied to me.
I first met Pei Huai in the 2nd year after I transmigrated. My novice mission had only one objective, to assist my legitimate elder sister in becoming empress. New to this world, even though I was deeply favored, I lived in constant fear, afraid that if I slipped up even once and exposed my identity, I'd be burned alive as a monster in this era that worshipped ghosts and spirits. My parents loved me, but they valued my stunning, outstanding elder sister more. My elder sister loved me, but she valued even more the power that could carry her to the pinnacle. So I was cautious in everything, speaking as little as possible. But at a peach blossom banquet, Miss Ming, who had long held a grudge against my sister, repeatedly mocked her, saying she was unworthy of being crown princess. I couldn't hold back and argued with her. She pushed me into the pond. That time I truly thought I was going to die. But I didn't. Pei Huai saved me. He draped a fox fur cloak over me and with just a few words, angered Miss Ming so badly she nearly fainted. After she left, he turned back to me and slightly curved his eyes.
Second Miss Shen, are you all right?
His smile was breathtaking, more radiant than the peach blossoms. At that moment, something in my heart quietly stirred. He was the young Marquis Pei, the Empress's own nephew, unmatched in looks, noble beyond measure. Countless women in the capital secretly admired him. I was only 12 then, just beginning to understand affection. Falling for him was nothing strange, but it was only a crush. Compared to Pei Huai, what I wanted more was to go home. At most, before leaving, I just wanted to look at him a few more times. To see him sparring with my brother on the training grounds, valiant and sharp. To see him discussing court affairs eloquently with my elder sister. To see him frown, then smile softly. No matter the expression, he was undeniably beautiful. That day, I ran into Pei Huai head-on as he was leaving. I hurriedly apologized. He raised a hand to straighten my hairpin and chuckled softly.
Second Miss Shan, you're quite different from your brother and sister. Very adorable.
I looked up at him. Just one glance, and my face flushed. The sunlight was perfect that day. Yet it was nothing compared to the warmth in his eyes. I asked myself,
Is it really just a crush?
No, I had fallen in love with him. I could no longer deceive myself. When I was 16, Pei Huai came to propose marriage.
Second Miss Shan, I have admired you for a long time. I wish only to stay by your side, never to part, to grow old together. Are you willing to marry me?
He promised me one life, one love. He promised to love me and cherish me forever. How could I bear to refuse? So on the day my elder sister was crowned empress, the system asked me, "The mission is complete. Do you wish to leave?" I refused. Without a single second of hesitation. The system seemed to have anticipated my decision and only sighed softly. When a man is devoted, he can still withdraw. When a woman is devoted, she cannot. At the time I felt indignant. I never imagined those words would become a prophecy. I don't like crowded, chaotic places. I avoided gatherings of noble ladies whenever possible, seeing my low spirits and that my pregnancy was stable. Jir coaxed me into going to Funky Wine House to try their new dishes. Perhaps fate was simply cruel. I sat by the window, and when I looked down, I saw Pei Huai. The beaded curtain of the carriage lifted, and a lively child jumped down first, shouting,
Daddy!
Pei Huai smiled and lifted him into his arms, completely unconcerned that the child dirtied his robes. This was a man who would once insist on bathing and changing clothes just because his brother scuffed his hem on the training grounds. Then a woman stepped down from the carriage, her gaze gentle as she watched them. A loving father, a dutiful son. They looked like a family. And I was nothing more than a thief who had briefly stolen Pei Huai away. My heart spasmed sharply.
Madam, are you all right? Miss!
Only Jir's frantic calls pulled me back to myself. I turned to look at her, and saw her face drenched in tears.
Miss, don't cry, please don't cry.
Cry. Cry over what? I had done nothing wrong. Why would I cry? But when I raised my hand to touch my cheek, my fingertips were ice cold.
Miss, shall we go back to the Shen residence? Let's tell the old madam.
No.
My refusal came without a second of hesitation. Though my elder sister was empress, she was surrounded by enemies on all sides. Mother was already worn thin with worry. At a time like this, I could not burden her further with my affairs. Her body wouldn't be able to bear it. This was my matter. This was the path I had chosen. How to continue down it, I would decide for myself. I watched the three figures walk away, my gaze filled with quiet sorrow.
I need to think. I need to think this through carefully.
After returning home, I sent people to investigate that woman, Yang Yang. I had to understand what kind of woman could make Pei Huai betray his own vows and deceive me for so many years. The Shen family's shadow guards were efficient. In less than 3 days, I learned everything about the entanglement between the two of them. It turned out that the woman was Pei Huai's cousin, Zhao Yao. 4 years ago, seeing that I had yet to conceive, the old Madame Pei brought Yang Yang from their ancestral home. While I was in the palace visiting my sister, she drugged Pei Huai. That night, the two became husband and wife in truth. When he awoke the next morning, Pei Huai intended to kill Yang Yang with his sword. It was only because the old madam knelt and begged, even threatening death, that he finally put the blade down. The old madam wanted to give her a proper status, but Pei Huai refused. She did not dare push him further and instead settled Yang Yang at Xiangshan. Pei Huai did not shake his head. Later, Yang Yang became pregnant. Pei Huai treated her coldly, but he went to see the child. Once, twice, 3 times. Until now. Jir spoke from the side.
Miss, my lord was framed as well.
Even as she said it, her voice lacked conviction.
He has spent years on the battlefield. He even has some resistance to poison. How could he fall for an aphrodisiac? And even if the first time was an accident, what about the next 3 years? Were those accidents too?
I let out a soft laugh, placed the letter into the brazier, and in an instant, the white paper was consumed by flames, leaving only ash.
He simply wanted it too.
Perhaps he wanted a child. Perhaps that woman truly was breathtakingly beautiful. He merely went along with it. When Pei Huai returned home, night had already fallen. These past few days it had been the same. Most likely that woman was clinging to him, unwilling to let him go. Otherwise, the scent of another woman on him wouldn't have grown heavier by the day. He first summoned Jir to ask about my meals and daily routine. Jir was young and unable to hide her feelings. Her attitude was cold. He frowned in displeasure but said nothing and let her leave. I watched, feeling only bitterness. Look at him, treated so rudely by a servant. Yet he swallowed his anger, simply because she was my dowry maid and he didn't want to hurt my dignity. Late at night, he carefully applied scented balm for me, his voice gentle.
Now, you've seemed unhappy lately. Tomorrow, let me accompany you to Shangshan to clear your mind.
I lowered my gaze to look at him. Candlelight fell across his face, half in shadow, half in glow. Yet his eyes were exceptionally clear, just like countless evenings over the years. I leaned into his arms, eyes gently closed. He patted my back lightly, coaxing me as he spoke of the day's events. His voice was low. Sometimes he would make me laugh until I slowly fell asleep. He would kiss my cheek and whisper, "I love you." Back then I thought such days were simply ordinary. But that kind of ordinary would never return again. I wanted to smile, but I felt unbearably tired. So tired that even the heart that had raced for him thousands of times finally slowed.
No need. The blossoms have passed. The apricot flowers have already fallen. Going now would be pointless.
At that moment, the long dormant system suddenly spoke. Hello, host. Monitoring indicates the mission has been completed. You may exit at any time.
What will happen to this body after I exit?
The original body will die. At those words, my fingertips trembled. Pei Huai seemed to sense something and pulled me tightly into his arms.
Don't leave me now. I love you.
I had always been soft-hearted toward Pei Huai, but this time I wanted to see. If I died, would Pei Huai regret at this very moment his betrayal and deception of me? The next time I went to Shangshan, I was 6 months pregnant. Before the hall full of gods and Buddhas, I seemed especially small. I knelt devoutly and kowtowed 3 times. The first for my child. May he live a life of peace and joy. The second for the Shun family. May the clan prosper and flourish. The third for Pei Huai. May he live a long life and may he never forget me year after year. Halfway down the road, a sudden downpour began. The path grew slippery, so our group went to Shangshan Pavilion to take shelter. When we reached the entrance, I looked up. The words Zhenyu Pavilion were gone. Only the cold, plain Shangshan Pavilion remained. But that was hardly surprising. The precious jade had already been placed elsewhere by Pei Huai. What purpose did Zhenyu Pavilion have left to exist? I stood beneath the covered corridor and lifted my gaze toward the peach tree in the center of the courtyard. The first time I saw it, it hadn't yet grown such lush green leaves. Suddenly, my eyes fixed on a spot of red. Say, it must have been dropped in haste and forgotten. Jir handed it to me. I opened it and inside was a slip of paper. May you be safe and well. May I stay with you forever. Same wish. The handwriting above was delicate and graceful. It must have been written by Yang Yang. The words below I knew all too well. They were Pei Huai's. I stared at it for a very, very long time before slowly putting it back and handing the sachet to Jir.
Keep it safe.
All of this would be returned to Pei Huai one day. Pei Huai. So it turns out someone could treat me so well, while still wishing for a long life together with another woman. At that moment my eyes burned fiercely, yet not a single tear fell. I only let out a very soft, very light sigh, sighing at the impermanence of the world, sighing at flowers blooming and withering. The rain lasted a long time. It was only when the sky darkened that it paused briefly. Jir had already tidied up a room, intending for us to stay the night. but I refused outright. I didn't know how many times Pei Huai and Yang Yang had entangled themselves here. Just the thought made me nauseous.
This place is too filthy.
Jir understood at once and held my icy hand with heartache. She had the carriage prepared again and lit the brazier, afraid I might catch cold. I leaned against the fox fur cloak, my eyes dazed as I stared at the book of songs in my hands.
When a man is devoted, he can still withdraw. When a woman is devoted, she cannot. To grow old together, yet age brings me resentment. The Chi has its banks, the marsh has its bounds. In youthful feasts we laughed and talked in joy, solemn vows sworn with faith. Never did I think of betrayal, but betrayed I am. What more can be said?
I read the lines aloud again and again, until my face was soaked with tears, and I could no longer speak. I had truly believed that I would never become the tragic woman in the book of songs. Yet in the end I could not escape this fate. I covered my face and wept, burying my sobs beneath the sound of rain. But I was not heartbroken over Pei Huai. I was heartbroken for myself, unable to walk forward together, yet unwilling to let go. I cried for being trapped between advance and retreat. I cried for my cowardice and hesitation. I cried for love that vanished in an instant. Just then the horse let out a startled scream. An arrow wrapped in the howl of wind pierced through the carriage window, barely an arm's length from me. Jir's face went deathly pale as she hurriedly helped me out of the carriage. The guards were quickly taken down, one, by men in black who appeared out of nowhere. The stench of blood mixed with the smell of rain. I gagged instinctively. My steps faltered. An arrow shot straight toward me. My legs went weak. I shut my eyes reflexively. Thud! The arrow pierced flesh. Warm blood splattered across my face. I opened my eyes, and they shook violently.
Pei Huai.
He forced out a reassuring smile, but in the next moment, his body collapsed straight into my arms. Blood poured endlessly from the wound. Even in the final second before he lost consciousness, he whispered into my ear.
Don't be afraid now, Niao.
He told me not to be afraid, but I was terrified. I was afraid that if he lived, he would continue to hurt me. But I was even more afraid that if he died, I would owe him forever. I hated him. I hated that he no longer loved me, yet still wore this mask of devotion, leaving me alone to struggle in pain, to doubt myself again and again. Pei Huai, why did you give your life to save me? If I had died, you, her, and your child could have lived happily ever after. Wasn't that exactly what you wanted? Tears fell drop by drop onto his shoulder.
Pei Huai, I hate you.
Truly, I hate you. An arrow through the chest was no minor injury. In times like these, it was extremely dangerous. The old Madame Pei rushed over. Seeing Pei Huai covered in blood, her vision darkened in panic. Yet she still scolded me for being restless, always wanting to run outside. I had no energy to argue with her. But when I lifted my head, I saw a woman following behind her. Zhao Yao. Her face was pale, her eyes red, constantly wiping away tears. She looked even more anxious about Pei Huai's safety than I, the rightful wife. Noticing my gaze, she shrank back instinctively, as if I were some kind of monster. Madame Pei immediately stepped in front of her, shielding her protectively, afraid I might harm her in the slightest. This was treatment I had never received in all my years of marriage. Perhaps it was misplaced compassion on my part, but I truly had no intention of making things difficult for her. Women in this world already live hard lives. Why torment each other? By the time Pei Huai was settled, dawn was breaking. I felt a faint cramping in my lower abdomen, likely from exhaustion. After drinking a bowl of stabilizing medicine, I planned to rest. I never expected the old Madame Pei to be so impatient. She didn't even wait for Pei Huai to wake before confronting me.
This is Huai's cousin. I intend to make her a noble concubine for him.
I lowered my eyes, unconsciously gripping the book of songs. Seeing that I didn't respond, she continued impatiently.
They've been deeply attached for many years and already have a son. Back when you had no child, Huai already did overthink. Now you're pregnant, your position as the main wife is secure. But the Marquis' eldest son can't keep living outside, and Yang Yang can't remain without status forever.
Only then did I understand why she couldn't wait. She knew that once Pei Huai woke, He would never allow Zhao Yao to enter the household, so she forced my consent first. Once Zhao Yao entered with the child, Pei Huai would inevitably grow distant from me, and she would avoid resentment between mother and son. 1 move, 3 gains. What a brilliant scheme. I set the book down. My voice was very soft.
All right.
Madame Pei froze. Even Zhao Yao, who had remained silent the entire time, lifted her head in shock, clearly not expecting me to agree so readily. After all, I had monopolized Pei Huai for so many years. I let out a soft laugh, my eyes clear and calm.
I agree. Old madam, choose a date and let her enter the household.
Pei Huai woke half a month later. I didn't go to see him that day. Zhao Yao took Pei Mingnan with her, but they were quickly driven out. Jia recounted it vividly, full of schadenfreude.
Miss, you should have seen it. When the Marquis saw her, his face was terrifying. He shoved her to the ground and told her to get out of the Pei household. The young master cried until he couldn't breathe, but the Marquis only shouted louder, demanding that you be brought to him.
Before she could finish, a figure suddenly rushed in. It was Pei Huai, bandages still wrapped around his body, blood seeping through them, yet he didn't care at all. He pulled me into his arms tightly.
Niao niao, niao niao.
Calling my name over and over, mindful of my pregnant belly. His hands were careful, restrained. I didn't struggle. I spoke softly.
Pei Huai, you're trembling. What are you afraid of?
After a moment, my shoulder grew warm. He was crying silently. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse.
I'm afraid you'll leave. I'm so afraid, terrified.
I patted his head gently, as if soothing him.
Don't be afraid. I won't leave. I'm still carrying your child.
He froze, then lifted his head in joy.
Forever.
I don't lie, so I only smiled, and said nothing at all. His eyes dimmed in an instant. His hands trembled as they gripped my shoulders.
I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have lied to you. I was foolish.
You weren't foolish,
I said, looking at him with a gentle smile.
You were very smart. You knew that if I found out about Zhao Yao, I would be heartbroken. So you hid her from me all this time.
His expression changed sharply.
Oh, I
raised my hand and pressed a finger lightly to his lips.
These past years you must have treated me even better out of guilt. You made me feel sorry for you, made me blame myself even more for not conceiving. When I drank bowl after bowl of bitter medicine for a child. When my arms were bruised purple from acupuncture. Were you laughing at my stupidity while you were tangled up with her? You hid it for more than 3 years. Not a single crack. Look how clever you were.
He lifted his arms, wanting to hold me tighter. I didn't avoid him. This time he embraced me fiercely, as if trying to fuse me into his body. His breath brushed against my ear as he whispered, I'm sorry, again and again. Yet on him I caught a trace of Zhao Yao's sweet fragrance. At that moment I understood with absolute clarity. Even though Pei Huai and I stood only inches apart, our hearts had already changed. He was no longer him, that I was no longer me. There was no us left in this world. I rested my head against his shoulder. My voice was soft but unwavering.
There's no need to apologize. This was the path I chose myself. I loved the wrong person. I trusted the wrong person. I am the stupidest, most foolish woman in the world. I can see, Pei Huai. Let us divorce.
That day, Pei Huai fled in panic. But what was the use of running? The truth had already been laid bare. I closed my courtyard and refused to go out. When I did walk, it was only a few steps within the yard. One day, hearing the lively blare of swan horns from the main residence, I suddenly remembered. Pei Huai had not come secretly to see me today, so it was Zhao Ya's wedding day. At first, Pei Huai had refused. No matter how his mother threatened suicide, he would not agree. But one night, Zhao Yao attempted to hang herself. By the time she was saved, she was barely alive, and Pei Mingnan knelt outside Pei Huai's study all night, refusing to rise. Pei Huai was hard-hearted toward everyone, but toward that child he was soft, so he compromised. I wasn't surprised by his choice. He didn't invite me to the wedding banquet. Even if he had, I wouldn't have gone. I didn't want to see him, and I certainly didn't want to accept Zhao Yao's concubine's rights. What I didn't expect was that Zhao Yao would come looking for me herself.
Madam,
She said,
I am 4 months pregnant. The old madam said that once I give birth, I will be promoted to a co-wife.
He was draped in gold and silver, her brows full of smug triumph. The timid softness she once wore was gone. So this was her true face. Of course, a woman who could ensnare Pei Huai was never a harmless little rabbit. I looked at her and said nothing. She pressed on.
What does madam think?
This is a matter for the Pei family,
I replied coolly, sipping my tea.
Ask Pei Huai. Could it be that he refused you so you came to beg me instead?
My words pierced her false composure. Her face twisted slightly.
What exactly did you say to the Marquis? He married me, yet he won't touch me. Even now that I'm pregnant, he shows no joy at all. Was it you stirring trouble behind the scenes? Xin Yao, do you really think that just because you had his body you could hold his heart? Let me tell you, the Marquis.
Before she could finish, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. She was stunned.
You hit me.
At the same moment, Pei Huai walked in. Zhao Yao instantly swallowed her rage, her eyes reddening as she threw herself at him, sobbing.
My lord, I don't know how I offended madam. She suddenly struck me.
Pei Huai didn't even glance at her. He stared at me dazed.
She hit you,
he said calmly.
Then endure it. You deserve it.
Zhao Yao froze, then lowered her head.
Yes.
Across Zhao Yao, Pei Huai and I looked at each other from afar. There was no longer any flutter in my heart, only disappointment. After that day, I noticed Pei Huai treated Zhao Yao no differently than a stranger, perhaps even colder. But I could no longer tell whether he was sincere or merely acting again, and I no longer cared to think about it, seeing how listless I had become. Shir coaxed me to walk a little farther. Before long, we reached the pond. Suddenly, Pei Mingnan rushed toward me. I was startled and nearly fell. When Jir caught me, disappointment flashed across the boy's face. He bared his teeth and hissed,
You bad woman! You bullied my mother and stole my father. The child in your belly deserves to die.
The words exploded in my mind like a thunderclap. No one dares curse a mother's child. Blood rushed to my head. I lost all reason. I wanted him dead.
What are you doing?
Only when Pei Huai yanked me away did I come back to myself. 10 purple fingerprints ringed Pei Mingnan's neck. I had done that. My whole body trembled as I looked at Pei Huai in panic.
Pei Huai, he cursed my child.
Pei Mingnan buried himself in Pei Huai's arms, sobbing softly.
Father, I didn't. I only said a few words to madam, and she tried to strangle me. I was so scared.
As he spoke, he began coughing violently, his voice hoarse and pitiful. Pei Huai patted his back tenderly. When he looked at me again, his eyes were full of disappointment.
I know you're angry with me, but how could you lay murderous hands on a child? When did you become so cruel?
The sun was blazing overhead, yet I felt only cold, a cold that seeped from my heart into every corner of my body.
You don't believe me, Pei Huai. You don't believe me.
He turned his head away, his voice icy.
All these years I did keep my promise of one man, one woman. I stayed with you alone, but I'm already 25. You couldn't conceive for so long, and I am the legitimate heir of the Marquis' household. I needed a child to reassure the family. Why can't you understand that?
How long?
I asked softly.
Have you been keeping these thoughts to yourself?
I laughed bitterly.
So this is how you see things. This is how you see me.
So that was it. All of it had been my own wishful thinking. I misunderstood. I misjudged. My hands shook as I stumbled back, dazed. Behind me, Pei Huai seemed to sense something wrong and tried to follow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I spoke without thinking, but Zhao Yao called out to him.
My lord, please check on Nana.
He looked at me, then at Pei Mingnan. In the end, he stopped, lifted the child into his arms. From that day on, I never left my room again. I imprisoned myself indoors. Over and over, I read the book of songs, slicing my heart open again and again, until the very last trace of love I had for Pei Huai was gone. Unwilling, I asked the system.
Is there really no way to take the child with me?
The system replied coldly. Once again, he belongs to this world. He cannot be taken away, nor can he be erased.
Fine.
That was why I had never truly torn things apart with Pei Huai. I would leave, but my child would remain here. He would face everything alone. and what I had to do was arrange his entire life before I went. I wrote a letter to my elder sister, asking her to take the child into the palace and raise him after I was gone. I did not trust Pei Huai. I trusted only her. She was intelligent and brave. With her the child would learn much. Then came Pei Huai. I gave Jie the red sachet I had once found, along with a new one I had made. On mine I embroidered a lone mandarin duck and my small courtesy name. Inside was a letter I wrote to Pei Huai. It was simple, but enough. After arranging everything, I told Jie.
After I die, you must hand this to Pei Huai personally.
Jie cried uncontrollably, clutching my legs and nodding again and again. I stroked her head gently and soothed her softly.
Silly girl, why are you crying? Your young mistress is going somewhere better. You should be happy.
She looked up at me, her eyes shining.
Miss has suffered in this life. In the next one you must live well.
I froze. Had I really suffered in this life? It didn't seem so. I transmigrated here, living in fear at first, yet was cherished and raised delicately. As a child, my parents and siblings sheltered me. After marriage, Pei Huai held up the sky for me. I fell in love with him, relied on him, and truly became a pampered lady of this ancient world. But no one knew better than I did. I was not. My mind was full of new ideas. I could brew wine, forge swords. I could design more exquisite hairpins and more beautiful dresses. Yet I dared not show any of it. I was a daughter of a noble family. I did not represent myself alone. I represented the Shan family. My every move reflected my parents' and siblings' honor. So I did nothing. Sometimes I thought, if I had truly been born in this era, how good that would have been. Then if Pei Huai took concubine, so be it. I would have fulfilled the magnanimity of a proper wife. But I was not of this world, and I could not share my husband with another woman. I wanted one man, one lifetime. When he could do that, I stayed and loved him. When he could not, I would leave. But my departure would not be silent. I would give Pei Huai a gift, a blood-red gift, ending with my death. I believed he would never forget it. The next time I saw Pei Huai, I was 8 months pregnant. For several months before that, I had refused to see him. I knew he watched me from afar every day, but I ignored him. That day, however, I walked toward him of my own accord. He was overjoyed, talking endlessly. I listened quietly, rarely responding. At last, he said he was going to war and would return in about a month. I looked up and asked softly,
Will you make it back on the day I give birth?
He nodded without hesitation.
I will. I'll definitely come back.
I smiled faintly. He was momentarily dazed. He stepped forward, holding my hand. His voice choked with emotion.
Naonieo, I know I was wrong, but I truly love you. From now on, let's live well together, all right? I'll be with only you.
I looked at him for a long time. Just as he began to grow uneasy and tried to change the subject, I nodded.
All right.
Joy filled his eyes. He carefully touched my belly, looking at it, then at me as if trying to carve me into his memory. Only when the soldiers came to urge him on did he leave, reluctant to part. Watching his retreating figure, I suddenly called out,
Pei Ling, come back early.
At that moment, my smile was incredibly gentle, as if I had returned to the innocent girl who first married him. In that instant, his eyes reddened. He nodded heavily.
Naonieo, wait for me.
But Pei Huai did not know. That was the last time he would ever see Naonieo. He fought on distant battlefields, driving the enemy back again and again. The people hailed him as a god of war, yet time and again, he would stare blankly at a small sachet in his hand.
Naonieo, wait for me.
He lifted it to his lips and pressed a tender kiss against it, his gaze soft and lingering, as if Shan Ye were standing right before him. Suddenly, the tent behind him was flung open. A soldier rushed in, clutching a letter, his hands shaking violently.
My lord! Madam gave birth and suffered massive hemorrhaging. The young master is safe, but madam...
Pei Huai's face changed drastically. His voice trembled with fury.
How dare you curse Naonieo? I'll kill you.
He raised his sword to strike, but the soldier only kowtowed desperately. His forehead smashed bloody against the ground, yet he did not change his words.
Madam is truly at death's door, my lord.
Pei Huai's sword fell from his hand. Clang.
Naonieo!
He let out a heart-rending cry and bolted out like a madman. 3 days and 3 nights. He did not rest for a single moment. 6 horses were run to death before he finally reached the Marquis's residence in the capital. But it was too late. White mourning silk hung everywhere. White lanterns glared harshly into his eyes. He didn't believe it. He refused to believe that Nayonia would abandon him.
나연이에요! 나연이에요!
He shouted the name of the woman he loved, unwilling to accept it, hoping she would emerge smiling, dressed in soft pink.
Pei Lang, why did you come back so late?
But he waited, and waited. Nayonia never came out. She must still be angry with him. That was fine, he would go find her. She had promised him. When he returned, she would no longer be angry. They would live well together. He already knew he was wrong. He would have plenty of time in the future to make it up to her, little by little. Pei Huai stepped into the main room and saw her at once, lying on the bed.
I'm back!
He walked forward joyfully and reached out to take her hand. It was ice cold to the bone. The expression on his face froze. He could no longer deceive himself. Nayonia was truly dead. It felt as if his heart had been torn out alive, leaving behind only a bloody, gaping void.
Nayonie, don't be angry anymore. I'm back to stay with you. I know I was wrong now. You're the kindest, most beautiful woman in the world. How could I ever call you cruel? Hit me instead, all right? A metallic sweetness surged in his throat.
He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, drop by drop splashing onto Naonio's body. The blood was warm, but it could not warm her.
My lord, please restrain your grief. Madam has already passed.
Jiao rushed forward, crying through her tears. Before she could finish, Pei Huai kicked her hard in the chest. Her vision went black with pain, and then he grabbed her chin.
She's dead. Are you happy now? Do you think you can take her place?
His eyes were murderous, blood staining the corner of his mouth, like Yama himself come to claim lives. Zhao Ya was terrified, her face pale. She dared only shake her head.
I would never dare think such a thing.
Get out!
He roared, sweeping his gaze viciously across everyone.
All of you, get out!
Pei Mingnan hurriedly supported the limp Zhao Yao and fled in panic. From that day on, Pei Huai neither ate nor drank, neither slept nor rested, keeping vigil beside Qin Yao's ice coffin. The old madam tried to persuade him. Pei Mingnan tried as well. Nothing worked. He even picked up a blade and wounded them both.
This is what you owe Nayonie. You owe her.
Watching them flee in terror, he laughed maniacally, head thrown back. Then he collapsed onto the ice coffin. Looking at Nayonie inside, tears suddenly streamed down his face. Memories surfaced one by one. Nayonie smiling gently at him, her eyes soft and tender, as if it were the very beginning. From now on, let's live well together. Pei Lang, come back early. They had been so close. Just a little more, and they could have grown old together. Why did heaven punish him so cruelly? If punishment was due, let it fall on him, on his disloyalty, his betrayal, his deceit. Why did it have to take Nayonie's life? Nayonie, I was really wrong. Please come back, all right? His voice was hoarse with despair, as if blood might spill again at any moment. But it was too late. Everything was too late. No one would ever again tend his wounds with concern, and no one would blush and scold him when he teased her shamelessly, and no one would leave a lamp lit for him late into the night. He had no home anymore. In the 6th year of his marriage, Pei Huai had lost his home forever. The Marquis's wife's coffin was not buried for a long time. Rumors swirled through the court, yet no one dared to persuade the deranged Pei Huai. In the end, it was the Empress who sent someone to deliver a single sentence.
Even in death, are you still unwilling to let Nayonie rest?
Pei Huai's lifeless eyes moved slightly. 2 streams of tears fell. That night, Shen Yao's major came to see him. She handed him the 2 sachets. Her gaze was icy.
One was picked up by Madam from a tree at the treasure pavilion. The other was embroidered by Madam before her death.
The treasure pavilion? Pei Huai froze and realized something. His face turned deathly pale. Jier's tears streamed down her face, yet her voice was filled with hatred.
Madam knew long ago that you kept a woman outside. It was your precious Yao who sent people to inform her. Madam knew everything. But for the sake of your past affection, she said nothing. Not a single word.
After that, she could not speak anymore. She turned and left. Pei Huai stared at the 2 sachets in his hands. He tore open the red one. A note slipped out. May you be safe and well. May I, your concubine, grow old with you. Same wish. It was his handwriting. But he had never written such a thing. Yet even if it was fake, what did it matter? The betrayal was real. The deception was real. His hands shaking, he opened the other sachet. Inside was another note. This life was already a mistake. One wrong step led to wrong steps forever. You and I cannot escape a love that blooms wrongly and ends in ashes. Lanyan Su Gua. Pei Huai from beginning to end. The only one who ever truly hurt me was you. I am the stupidest, most foolish woman in the world. You didn't believe me. You didn't believe me. So this is what you truly thought. Nine Neo's despairing hollow tears arriving far too late finally fell into his heart. Each one weighed unbearably heavy. At that moment, overwhelming regret surged forth, wrapping him tightly. He could not struggle free. He could not escape. He could only be devoured again and again by sorrow and remorse, until death. The next day, the coffin was finally buried. Before everyone's eyes, Pei Huai clutched the coffin, crying and laughing all at once. Everyone present understood. Pei Huai had completely gone mad. The god of war, who never changed expression on the battlefield, had gone mad over his wife's death. In the palace, Empress Shen took her young nephew away and personally granted the Pei family's newborn son the title of Marquis, completely cutting off Zhao Yao and her child's ambitions. When Pei Huai was lucid, he wrote a divorce letter and cast Zhao Yao aside. Pei Mingnan knelt endlessly, but Pei Huai struck him with a sword. His eyes were red with bloodlust. No one could stop him. From then on, Pei Mingnan never dared appear before him again. Gradually, the Marquis's residence emptied out. The old madam took Zhao Yao and returned to a remote hometown, never daring to show their faces again. Their lives likely ruined. The once glorious residence fell into decay. Only one person remained, the major, who refused to leave. When others asked why, her eyes gleamed with murderous intent.
I want to watch him die. When he dies, I'll leave.
She hated Pei Huai to the bone. Half a year after Xin Yao's death, Shir went as usual to clean the main hall. Though her lady was gone, her belongings remained. She could not let them gather dust. But beneath the willow tree, she saw a figure slumped over the stone table. She walked closer. It was Pei Huai.
If you want to drink, go somewhere else. Don't disturb Madam here.
She stopped mid-sentence, sensing something wrong. Only her own breathing could be heard. Startled, she reached out and felt beneath Pei Huai's nose. No breath. He was dead. Pei Huai was finally dead. Jir felt no fear. Instead, she felt joy. The man who had driven her lady into silent misery was finally dead. It was worth it. Worth all the poison she had fed him day after day. Even when he slept, she burned incense beside him, ensuring he found no peace even in his dreams. She wanted Pei Huai to live every moment in terror. Only then would it be worthy of her lady's misplaced love. She threw back her head and laughed, wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes. In a daze, she seemed to see her lady as a young girl again. A little baby fat on her cheeks, wearing strange clothes she had never seen before. Smiling brightly like the sun, her voice soft and sweet. Jir, I'm very happy now. You should go live your own life too. Be happy every day. All right. Miss, then I wish you joy and peace for eternity.